Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week, we watched Monster. The original manga was written and illustrated by Naoki Urasawa and published from 1994 to 2001. It was adapted by Madhouse into a 74-episode anime, which was broadcast from 2004 to 2005. The English dub aired on Sci-Fi's Animondays in 2009. Due to low sales of the first DVD box set, Viz Media decided not to continue releasing the remaining episodes and later dropped the license. Netflix started streaming the series at the beginning of last year, and that's where you can currently watch the whole thing. The story revolves around Kenzo Tenma, a Japanese surgeon living in Dusseldorf, Germany, who, in defiance of the internal politics at the hospital, chooses to save the life of a young boy instead of the mayor. This choice begins a series of domino effects as his superiors begin to die mysteriously and the child disappears. Tenma is the prime suspect, but the police have no evidence. 9 years later, Tenma must deal with the consequences of his moral decision as he hunts down the killer and vows to fix the mistake he made. Urasawa was directly inspired by the 1960s television series The Fugitive, which had a strong impact on him when he saw it at the age of 8. The Japanese medical industry was strongly influenced by the professional practices in Germany, so it seemed natural to Urasawa to set the story there. Post-war Germany was chosen so that the neo-Nazi movement could be included in the story. Surprise! There's Nazis.
Oh.
Surprise, there's always Nazis.
But yeah, so I'm the one who put this one on the list. And for two main reasons. One, because this series is a fantastic example of direct adaptations of the source material. It's basically like shot for shot, line for line, just an animated version of the manga. Very, very little was changed. So like when you have a good story and there's no reason to change a lot between mediums, like it just translated perfectly. I think probably because he based it on the Fugitive TV show, so he probably it probably played like kind of like a storyboard already to easily adapt to anime.
So the villain was the one-armed, one-legged, one-eyed Nazi.
Yeah. The second reason that I wanted to put this one on the list, besides the fact that it's like a very well acclaimed series and has won a lot of awards, is that I feel like it's a great example of a series that is great for introducing people to anime as like a medium, because its source material, the story is so like when you think anime and you think Japanese schoolgirls or whatever, like this is just like a crime thriller, a medical crime thriller, and anyone who enjoys like CSI or anything like that is probably going to enjoy the story. So it's like a good like in between, like this is what anime is, but I'm not going to introduce you to all the Japanese cultural stuff as much and overwhelm you with that.
There are no tentacles in this one.
Yeah.
I also think this is the first one outside of, I will argue, Spy Family, which there's no futuristic element, there's no robots, no fantasy, at least with the episodes that we saw.
No
This
supernatural.
This is more based in reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I wanted to bring up it's time for a new vocabulary word, which I don't think we've covered this one, but this is very much a seinen show.
Senden. Like Senden the Clowns?
I thought it was pronounced seinen.
It could be seinen.
Seinen.
Thank you. Okay.
But so basically a lot of the shows that we've watched, like, anything that was on Toonami, so anything with a tournament arc especially is generally a shonen show. So, it is for usually like a younger male audience. It's fighting, it's action, it's kind of wackiness, and a lot of
Angsty.
can be angsty.
Okay.
But then a seinen show is basically for the next level up. In my notes, I checked, and it is for a demographic of men aged 18 to 40. So this ends up being a genre which is more a lot of times like a more drama based. It can be slower paced. It's a lot of sort of thrillers fall into this. There's not so much fantasy or sci-fi elements. A lot of these are very grounded. Like you were saying, it is very like one of the earliest ones of this that I was introduced to was a police procedural. Which I've been meaning to go back to and finally read the rest of. But yeah, it is it's kind of like the businessman, the salaryman sort of class of demographic. So we do end up getting things that are far more grounded, far more slower paced. It doesn't quite feel right to say, but it's not high adrenaline, it is.
Yeah, it's like more mature storytelling.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Not as much flash, but can still have depth. I think is maybe the best way to put it. So I'm trying to think if we've had any. I thought we had one that already kind of fell into this genre, but I can't think of it.
I was actually just
That's how
looking
I was looking
over
through our earlier ones, and
arguably Ghost in the Shell to a degree.
but that's
It lacks the
futuristic. Yeah.
it does like the future. It does like the grounding in the modern, but I mean it handles a lot of more adult themes and topics.
Yeah, I also was thinking like Ghost in the Shell or Cowboy Bebop, but both of those are so strongly sci-fi. I think that makes them enough like ungrounded to begin with. It is far too fictionalized because they pivot on those elements far too much. Like almost something like the way that Steins Gate was sort of modern day, modern time with a little bit of
Sci-fi.
like one sci-fi hook rather than it the sci-fi element was the strange thing to the setting, not necessarily an integral part of the setting, such as cyborg bodies in Ghost in the Shell, such like that.
Fair.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just now I know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Seinen.
This will be on the test. Seinen. S-E-I? Is that right? Or is S-I-E-N?
S-E-I-N-E-N. And the E-I sound is basically the way of writing the extended E sound.
CNN.
CNN.
Super CNN.
CNN meets.
Yep.
Okay, good.
This is CNN. That dates me.
Okay, so shall we get right into our first episode?
Sure, let's do that.
Oh yeah, I guess I should mention. We watched the first 4 episodes of the series. And I chose those basically just because like since it's a very straightforward story, I felt like just letting you see the beginning and get the setup and the premise and the hook and everything. And then if you're interested in seeing more, you can go see more.
So, first episode is Herr Dr. Tenma. Totally was going to go with Herr Dr. Tenma, but I realized,
Oh yeah, now we have German to also butcher.
Wait, can we teach
Can we
teach Bob Germany? Or Germany? God! No, leave that in. I
This is
deserve
Germany.
it.
It's a country in Europe.
Can we teach Bob German words now?
Sure.
I do know
Alright.
I've also taken German.
Hair is a common word.
Yeah.
Yes, I am aware.
But
it's on top of your head. Yes.
Yes. So Harry, Dr. Tenma. This first episode does open up with Dr. Tenma being a showboat and getting all this glory from everyone around him because he had a successful surgery, saving an opera singer, which I didn't realize in Germany was like main opera town. But to do is to do. All of his cohorts. I don't know if are they nurses or doctors around him. They don't really say. Just the fellow surgical staff is like, "You did really good. That was a really hard surgery." And he's like, Yeah, typical Tuesday. Uh, Maybe not so much. We learn later on he's actually a decent person. But so we open up, and after this, we kind of see a cutaway. Uh, there's a family, and there's a little kid who is asking the mom, "No, where's dad?" And we go into the intro. Post intro,
Uh,
Dr. Tenma. Oh, go ahead.
quick note on this intro. Joe, I don't know if you have the same note, but the intro is done by a Chilean folk music group. I'm gonna butcher Chilean now. Uh, Quilapayún, Quilapayún, something like that. So that's a sort of artist I was not expecting to see on an anime OP.
Yeah, I
All
saw
things
that in
considered, I
the.
was gonna mock it, but
Yeah,
question.
please don't alienate our Chilean audience, Bob.
Oh, it's just cool. I would never think. Ah, yes, the Chilean anime band.
but I didn't make a note of it, but when you said it, Nick, I do remember seeing that, and I was like, that's that's a choice, and that's not a bad choice, but it was a choice.
So after the opening credits, we cut back to Dr. Tenma, who apparently is allowed to sleep. Who knew? Apparently not his girlfriend because she needs to wake him up. Uh,
She's the worst.
he is. He is. She just starts off the worst.
I will
And
interject here
it's
and
weird.
just say I will save my thoughts on her for later. We might need the explicit tag.
Uh,
Okay.
but just as an intro to a character, you know how, uh, as for me, the American culture in Disney, you know who the villain is. He definitely has strong villain vibes. Um, and she's not even the main bad guy.
She
So,
she's got very strong Lady Macbeth vibes.
I want to see your manager.
but she wakes him up because she's all excited because they were talking about Dr. Tenma's surgery, which is where we find out that it was an opera singer. Uh, and the chief of the hospital is like, yes, because of me, we got everything worked out. Uh, Another very just, just horrible person. Uh, Also on the news, we see that, oh, is it the Czech Republic? Slovakia? A foreign diplomat has come to Germany uh, because he was hiding from someone, I believe is what it was.
Yeah,
It's him
defector.
and his wife. Yeah, him and his wife and his two kids have defected to Germany, and it's just a quick snippet, uh, but it plays really a very strong, important reason later on. Eventually, Dr. Tenma's like, I guess I got to go to work. Goes to work, and he runs into one of his coworkers. I'm not sure which doctor it is, but this doctor is Dr. McSleazebag.
Hmm.
Uh, because he's all, oh, you're sleeping with the boss's daughter, huh? And he's like, what does that have to do with anything? And he's like, no, I get it. You're just trying to get up the promotion ladder faster. I understand. Wink, wink. Uh, yeah. The more you get to know Dr. Tenma, at least my point of view, 4 episodes, Dr. Tenma himself, I don't think that was the intention of the relationship.
No,
Uh,
he's very much like he is very skilled, but he's very like naive in a
Naive.
lot of ways. It's somewhere between naive and a lot of almost more he
Cynical?
he doesn't have his own ambitions. He is very willing to just like go with the flow that others put upon him.
All arguably, and we'll get to that.
Okay, at least here very much at the start.
In this situation, uh, Dr. Sleazebag goes off, and Dr. Tenma's off to do, I don't know, maybe his rounds. And some lady accosts him. She's like, why'd you let my husband die? And he's like, what? And she's like, you should have been the one to do the surgery on my husband's brain. Maybe he'd still be alive. And it's the same lady from the intro with the kid. So it's like a whole sad situation where I don't know if they sat in this hospital waiting to bombard him as soon as he got there or what. A little weird. I think that people would have kicked them out, but who knows? So Dr. Tenma finishes his rounds, I'm assuming, because he's going to meet up with his girlfriend, uh, the not nice lady, to say the least. They're having a pleasant evening. Um, and Dr. Tenma's like, hey, I reviewed, and I think I was supposed to do surgery on this person instead of the opera singer. And his super sweet girlfriend's like, you know what? People aren't created equal. You did the right thing. And Dr. Tenma's like he gets his whole cutscene of the dramatic anime. Did you just say that?
And
Uh,
this is like while they're at dinner, so she's just like
yep.
chewing on a piece of steak.
It's casual conversation for her. After dinner, they're going to see uh, the chief, who happens to be her dad. In the meantime, I believe we do get a cutaway of something else, but I'll save that. Uh, they go and see the chief of surgery. They kind of have a similar conversation. He's like, you know, uh, your purpose is to take care of the people who are going to bring money to the hospital, and this is the way you're going to get to chief of surgery or chief of neuro. So just keep doing what I say, and you're going to get there. So these are just not good people.
Yeah, it's definitely at this point where Tenma is like
His eyes are opened.
yeah, he really like realizes like how the administration is running things. And you can tell like he's coming into medicine as someone who wants to help people, wants to learn, so he can like, help as many
He can
people as
publish
possible.
papers, I think he mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, part of being like a big doctor is you have to do research stuff
Mhm.
and write papers and stuff. Um, and he came specifically to Germany, and I think to this doctor specifically because he wanted to like learn from him and study under him. And so like realizing that he's a terrible person whose like view is completely about making money and public image and stuff, he's like, "Oh, this is not a great situation that I'm in."
So, uh, to switch back to kind of the scene that was between the supper and the chief of surgery visit, our visiting dignitary from foreign country, his wife, are both killed. And the survivors are their children, the son and daughter, and the son got shot in the head.
Cool.
Uh, it's uh, we were warned that there would be a little bit of gore in here, and in all honesty, while yes, there is blood, it's not as gory as one might think immediately when thinking of that. But they do show that this poor kid got shot straight in the head, but is still alive, and they're taking him to the hospital.
Can
And
we?
Dr. Tenma gets. Oh, go ahead.
Th- Let's talk about this murder scene, because
Go on.
trying to piece together what happened here, because when you look at the scene, like the camera comes in through the front door and the two parents are like slumped backwards as though somebody came in the front door and like shot both of them. And then if you turn to your left, there's a doorway where the son is laying, and then the daughter was standing behind him looking towards where the parents were, where you would now be standing, and behind her is a glass window that has a bullet hole in it. So this is where I just immediately start to think like, okay, so this was like at least two people, because one shot through the window and hit the kid, and the other one came through and hit the parents through the front door. Or there was some crazy magic bullet, or this person out the window was really trying to line up all four with one shot and do some real Go-Go 13 stuff. So
¿Por
like,
qué no los dos?
sure.
I
But
feel like you're just secretly impressed with their shot.
I mean, I won't even be secret about it. It's just like, it's enough that it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, so is this like, this is just happenstance about how this scene has been drawn, or are we getting set up for there's going to be some intrigue about what was the nature of this assassination? I don't know how much that comes into play later. I hope some, because I'm like, ooh, there's a puzzle here to analyze.
I I won't go into details about my assumption because I don't. I think I might be on the money. But regarding that scene, it's like I knew a thing put this child in the hospital because what knowledge I have of the series beforehand is secondhand at best and not very detailed. But when I saw this and I saw all the players involved and on the scene, I feel like I figured out kind of what happened by the time we saw it. Like we saw, like got the status report of like who's been shot. Here's the daughter. I'm like, okay, I think I figured this out. And so, it was at that point I was starting to like the only element I didn't know of beforehand because this became very clear in the story by the end of like the first 2 episodes. There was an element I was not even aware of for what I knew. And like, I see what we have here. And while it's not necessarily anything new, it was nice just to say, like, oh, I didn't know this was coming for this show. Okay. So it was interesting to me, but I don't think it got the same intrigue like Nick did, which I very much envy.
So they rush. I don't even think they ever say the kids' names, or if they do, I just didn't pay attention to it.
I think they say
Uh,
them later on, like once they're
Yeah.
stable.
there. Uh, Dr. Tenma gets the buzz. Hey, you need to come save this kid's life. He has a bullet in his head. Dr. Tenma gets there. The girl is in a catatonic state, and the boy is being rushed to the emergency surgery because Dr. Tenma reviewed all the, X-rays and such. And it's like, oh, this is really close. Only I can do this. And that's when a phone call comes in from our good old chief of the hospital. He's like, hey, our mayor had, I want to say a stroke, maybe?
Yes.
And I need you to take care of this because he's a good donor to the hospital. Dr. Tenma reviews this information and all the preliminary stuff that they have on the mayor. He's like, just so you know, my fellow here, Dr. Other one, like Omer, it's not Dr. Sleazy, but, one of the other doctors.
Dr.
He can take care of
Sleazeball.
the, yeah. Uh, he can take care of the mayor. I'm the only one who I feel comfortable taking care of this kid. And the chief of surgery is like, no, you will be the one to take care of this. And I forget what exactly the threat is, but it leaves Dr. Tenma speechless because he doesn't understand why. Uh, and going back to the conversation with his fiancee, why there's priority of some people over other people, which is pretty impressive because that's a certain level of naivete that is like verge unbelievable. I think
Mm.
that kind of level of horribleness doesn't exist.
The threat
Yeah.
was, I don't know if it was more a threat, but it was mayor going to give us more money, and then he have brain problem, fixed brain problem, we get more money.
Oh yeah, because the mayor's gonna be reviewing the hospital next month. Which would mean like increasing their funds and stuff.
Also, for what it's worth, Dr. Sleazeball, the one we were talking about earlier, Dr. Becker.
Aw, I like that show. Anyway, uh, so the show ends out with us going to the catatonic girl, and thank goodness for subtitles because I didn't understand what she said. She was just sitting there laying, going, kill him. And that's the end of the episode.
Let me just. I don't think I can wait on this. I said I was going to wait. I can't wait. Fuck Ava.
Her name?
And that's me restraining what I put in my notes. I put a certain word I save to use one time a year. And she earned it. Like, one of my greatest compliments I can give the show is it has made characters I viscerally hate. Like, passionately. I see them and I
Yeah,
hear
and
what
it's
they
like
represent. It's like, ooh.
right, and it's not because they're like big bad evil. It's because they're the kind of evil that you run into in your real life. Like I know
They're
people
real
like this.
evil.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I hate it. Oh my god, I miss my Machiavellian mustache twirling schemes. I just hate her, and I hate her father. Let me tell you, the phrase "fuck capitalism" came up a lot in my notes anytime we started talking. Yeah. Oh, got mad. Like, I mean, I even have a note line here: the politics, politics, politics. Or excuse me, it started off office politics, politics, politics. But yeah, it's like, oh, it's like these are things I deal with in my work life. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to see them in my entertainment because now I'm just getting angry. Yeah, that whole first episode, and spoiler the next one. Anytime Ava shows up on the screen, I get just mad, like bull in an arena mad.
I was definitely shouting for our boy Tenma and just being like, "Drop the girl!"
I'm going to use a phrase or share a small story because it applies to Ava here. I was dating someone once, and my brother asked me about her, and I said, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Oh, she got blonde hair. This," and he says, "You have never done anything in your life so wrong to deserve a blonde." And I look at Ava here, and I'm like, Dr. Tenma has done nothing so wrong in his life yet to have deserved a blonde. And it's like, I have never agreed with his statement like that. I've never just felt like, this is a perfect statement encapsulating a thing until that moment.
Yeah, it's just like for something that is so grounded, she is like a caricature of like evil people. But at the same time, not unrealistic, which is unfortunate, but true.
The worst evil is real evil.
Yeah.
And yeah, so again, credit to the author, credit to everyone and anyone involved with the editing, the writing, because man, that is like one of the hallmarks of good storytelling in my mind. If you can create a character that the audience is not supposed to like, and every time you see them, that switch happens, bravo. And her father
That
too.
is,
I kept saying like, y'all need to get shot.
that was, I wouldn't say get shot, but you get really negative vibes. You're like, you know what, Dr. Sleazebag, you've moved up. Because you're just that person that walks around gossiping the entire time, and you're like, oh, here they come, and you roll your eyes. But with
but
the
he's at
girlfriend
least
and the chief,
trying to be a buddy. He's like gossiping
Yeah.
to commiserate. Like he's just like,
yeah,
oh, I know what I wink
He's
wink
the
nudge
office
nudge.
friend.
Yeah.
yeah, you aren't actively avoiding him. I would actively avoid the other two,
Mm-hmm.
except you don't, because, and I think this makes Dr. Tenma quasi-relatable, is that because he was on the inn, he's kind of blind to how they are until it becomes so painfully obvious he can't be blind to it anymore.
Oh yeah, he is new to the world, eyes never opened, deer in a headlights, naive.
Can we jump to everybody's favorite play along at home game? What age is this main character? Because there's specifically
So
a line where I think he's coming out of surgery, because it comes after my note that's just all caps brain spatula, which I believe happened during the surgery. But one of his colleagues is just like, "Oh, at your age," and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, so this dude is like 15."
so I'm
I'm
gonna
guessing 26.
go ahead, Bob.
Yep, 26.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's got to be like early. I cannot see him being any younger than 23. So I'm gonna like shoot for a range here. I'm gonna say no older than 27
Joe, do you
because
have a
like
guess, or do you just know?
I know.
Okay. I was actually shocked by this. I just looked this up. He is supposed to be 28 here in this first episode.
closest without going over.
Yeah, like, and that is wild for like to be a young person who, like, he looks younger than 28. We never see that in anime.
Yeah, like well,
But
you never see it without it being like mystical. Oh, you're 100 years old. Yeah, but I look
Sure.
like I'm 10.
here's my question, and it can wait till the end of episode 2, but to let you look it up. How long has he been a doctor?
That's a good question.
I
That
don't
Because
know
it'll
if they
play into
say.
questions I have for the future. In fact, it'll play into the next episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my thoughts on her father until the end of
Later.
the next episode because, man, let me tell you, whatever I thought of him beforehand totally was escalated by what is like things said in the second episode.
Oh, also, um, the the kid's parents, the
Mhm.
dad was a trade advisor from East Germany who was defecting to West Germany.
I wondered. I
Oh,
forgot to bring that back up because yeah, this is like in the what early '80s.
Yeah, it's like
but
86.
back when the wall was there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cold War still in full heat.
Interesting.
It
For some reason, I thought it's like a true foreign country, not and country just split.
I mean, the way they were run, you could argue.
Yeah, but my mind went to Czechoslovakia for some reason.
Maybe because the woman whose husband died in surgery was he was a Turkish construction worker.
That would do it.
Possibly. That'll redeem me, the Turkish person confusing that with Czechoslovakia.
Actually, the detail about him just being Turkish, like that's interesting because normally you're not going to get that brought up at all. But here is this kind of story where this absolutely kind of matters when you're dealing with this subject matter.
Yes.
So quick look up. It looks like he wasn't necessarily even like a medical school prodigy. Like he took a fairly normal task. If anything, it was slowed down a bit because there was his father wanted him to take over the hospital when he thought his younger brother was going to be better. So there was actually some flaking around, but he kind of just went to a good school, went to med school, and then was like, actually, I'm going to go study in Germany. And then, over there finished his med degree and focused in neurosurgery. So he's not like a prodigy necessarily. He's just like turned out to be good at this, but was on a pretty normal path.
Gotcha.
So I
Is
guess
this
maybe
addressed
that's
in later episodes?
apparently this is I'm reading off of Wikipedia, but this is I think there are some novelizations that goes into other parts of the story.
Okay.
So yeah, there you go.
Good to know.
Yay, learning.
I'm reading. I have to go watch this in English now because there's some of the Critical Role people were in this one.
The version that was aired on Sci-Fi was a Viz publication. And the this is kind of my favorite piece of trivia is that the English dub was done by Salami Studios.
Now I want
Ah,
a
hello,
sandwich.
salami.
I don't. It just makes me giggle. Um, I do. I was so happy that by the end of this first episode, we see our main character find his spine. Um,
Mm.
Mhm.
and like I was like so ready to be so like painfully sad for him. It's just like, oh, you are a good boy, but you're being led by evil. But then it's like, all right, he finds his spine. Let's do it. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah,
Um,
I must also agree with you on that. For the pacing of it, I was really afraid it was going to be like, okay, we're going to get like 4 episodes in, and he finally figures out how to stand up for himself. Like, no, no, he just takes that awkward encounter from earlier and just hits the ground running like a true altruist that he is. Cool.
yeah, and like as we get into later episodes, we see that it's because like that is not the drama of like the overall drama of the show. That is not the conflict to overcome. That's not the arc. But I don't know. It's a real strong character development, and specifically one that just like I like to see in characters. So to like serve it up on a plate right in the first episode, like this show was on a good route to getting me interested.
Right into Funky Town.
Okay, but I believe that brings us into our next episode.
Yes.
Downfall.
And very apropos. Apropos? Appropriate.
Apropos? The Kung Fu
Ooh,
Panda?
that works too. Eh, Uh, the story opens up, and our good Dr. Tenma is doing surgery on the little boy. We get to actually see him pull out the bullet from his head. You had mentioned the spatula.
Brain spatula.
which I don't even know if that's a real thing, but I'm just gonna nod my head
It
because this
is.
show actually
Yep.
seems to take credit in being grounded.
Brain spatula for what you use to flip your brain cakes over.
And again, I want to note here that like we watch him doing surgery, but it doesn't really show any of the like gory gritty. Like it's all like shots of like him with like the body blankets in the foreground, kind of like sort of thing. And then when you do see it, it's not like bloody or gory or anything, which is a nice balance, I think. Like you get the tension of it without having to be disgusted by it.
Yeah.
And after the intro, we see that uh, his surgery was successful. He's out there sitting in the lobby, chatting with the other people. And the other doctor, I believe, who was assigned to the mayor, or one of the other people, came up and said,
It was Becker.
just, was it Becker?
Yeah.
Boyer.
Walked up and, I'm sorry,
Boyer.
Boyer?
Oh, Boyer. I'm sorry.
No, Boyer was probably the other neurosurgeon, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Which matters later on.
Yeah,
I
Boyer
wrote it
and
wrong in my
Becker are
notes.
different people.
No, Becker is the police bag.
Right.
Boyer is the fellow neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I wrote it wrong in my notes. B names. What are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
I know, right? Walks up and says, "Hey, just so you know, the mayor died."
Shame.
Which leads me to believe that Boyer is just a sucky doctor because that's the second person he's killed. Oh, who
Mm-hmm.
has died under his watch.
Yeah, I think in the last episode they mentioned like he's fine, but he's like a little slow, like a little slower than he should be in surgeries or something.
And Dr. Tenma takes it, he's a little sad, but the boy that he did surgery on is recovering, doing okay. He just got shot in the head. What are you going to do? This is actually a realistic show, not he's healed and up and about in 2 days.
And ready to fire his own guns.
Yeah, who is he? Goku?
All he needs is some sensu beans.
Mm.
Look, I got a reference. I win.
Yay! I'm so proud of you.
So Dr. Tenma goes off to his office where, Dr. Becker, the sleazebag, comes in and is like, hey, you did your own thing, but, sometimes people got to make decisions, and you're probably going to be screwed. And Dr. Tenma's like, no, I did the right thing. I was the one who was qualified to do this, kid, so it was going to be me. And sleazebag's like, sure, whatever, we'll see what happens from this.
This
And-
is around here in my notes is when I write ANAB, all neurosurgeons are bastards, because it's like, hey, we have the one good one, and soon he will not be a neurosurgeon, right?
I have such mixed feelings about Becker. Because I know, hands down, he's a prick. But, I feel like at the same time he's almost trying, or part of me wonders, I won't say I feel like he's trying, but part of me wonders in, some of the things he says. Yes, he's being a prick about it, but he's almost making me wonder, like, is he just kind of trying to help Tenma realize the world he's actually dealing with?
Yeah, I think he is trying to get him. He's like, dude, like you got to play the game or you're not gonna be in the game at all.
Because I look at Becker as like, yeah, he's a prick, and I'm sure my read is like he is just horribly jaded. One can relate and empathize, but he's being a prick about how he delivers it. But it's like maybe he's also trying to do him a favor in not necessarily anywhere near the best way possible by saying this is the world you're in, but he's still trying. And participation points, I guess. I don't know.
In my mind, if this were like a fantasy anime, he would be the like street rat thief kid who is street smart and just being like, listen, you don't want to do bad things. This is what you got to do to survive in this world. I don't know why I made this voice Jewish. It's fine.
Woof.
It just happened. I'm sorry. Sometimes you look for a character voice and you regret it.
I think you're going for like stereotypical New York and went hard on One Direction.
Maybe. But yeah, like in for like I keep thinking about Fist of the North Star, and to map it like this guy is Bat. This guy is just
Oh
I'm out here
yeah.
doing my stuff. I'm your friend. I'm gonna tell you about how the world works.
Yeah, no, I could. Yeah, in that context, yeah, I can kind of see it that way. Because, like I said, there are parts of him I recognize in myself, like the like you just got to do certain things to get by at your day job. It's like I show up to work, I keep my head down, I try mostly to go unnoticed, and go home at the end of my day, collect a paycheck. So I kind of get his vibe. It's just like, dude, you're being a real prick about this. You could be nicer about how you're delivering this information to Tenma, your quote unquote buddy.
Did you watch the dub or did you watch it subbed?
Sub, because I didn't see a dub available on Netflix.
Did I watch the dub or the sub? I guess if there wasn't a dub on Netflix, I also watched the sub.
Yeah, I don't think Netflix lists them separately. The options are just in the audio menu.
I just didn't see the audio option. So, I mean, if there was in English, maybe I need to go back and watch it.
Maybe I'm just remembering English voices. Okay. You know what? That's on me. That's weird.
I've had those days.
Yeah, these
Listen,
things happen.
Nick, I'm going to relate to you. There's a show I watched when it first aired a few years ago that I'm convinced there was a dub for, but I cannot find it anywhere. And I'm convinced I watched it. So I might be gaslighting myself. I don't know.
When you read the words, you hear the voices in your head. You're fine.
Yeah.
So on Netflix, it looks like the options are Japanese and French audio.
Right. That's what I saw.
familiar.
Now I want to watch it in French with the subtitles.
Yeah, that could be all right.
Kinda. But that segue.
The
Oh,
French.
then it's the French.
Segue.
Uh, uh, I don't know if it's the same day. I'm assuming not, but at some point they're having their special announcement dinner. I guess I don't know
Yeah.
if it's like specific for the head of neurosurgery or just like everyone's promotions and so forth. But they have this meeting, and Dr. Tenma apparently had been avoiding the chief of surgery. So I'm assuming this is like relatively soon. But
I
you can't
think it
avoid
is
him
that same
forever.
night.
But he sees the chief and he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't listen." And first the chief is like, "Nope, you made a decision, and this is the decision that you made." Okay. And they announce, and the new head of neurosurgery, and then, that thing in nightmares that people have that everyone does where you think it's you, so you see Dr. Tenma like, "Oh, it's me. I gotta go up front." And they announce Dr. Boyer, the guy who has let two people die on his table that we are aware of, one of which
Hmm.
being the mayor, gets to be promoted to the head of neurosurgery. And Dr. Tenma is at least aware of his abilities, looks at the chief and is like, "Hey, I thought this was for me." And this is where we understand the chief a little bit better. He's like, "Just so you know, because of your decision, you have no chance of getting promoted. You're going to have no reports be filed. None of your research is going to be published. And if you try to transfer, I'm not going to let you. You can stay working here for as long as you want, but don't expect anything ever again."
Ugh,
And
the
that's
worst.
That's a
he's the
mood.
worst. And you're like, "You are the worst character. I don't like you at all. You are absolutely zero." And you realize, guess what? He's not the worst because, like, immediately after that, his fiance is there, and he walks up to her and he's like, "Uh, I don't know what's going on." And she looks at him. She's like, "We're breaking it up." He takes off her ring and throws it on the ground. Like, not even hands it back to him. Nope. Boop. And then slinks over to Dr. Boyer and starts hitting on him right in front of Dr. Tenma.
Actual whore.
Isn't there something about that line where it sounds like they're already familiar? Like maybe she was already working him while she was with Tenma?
Mhm. Something
A
about the
little bit.
delivery, yeah. And I got the impression too. It was like Daddy kind of also arranged this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it definitely seems like, well, also as the daughter of the director, like, I'm sure she's there at, like, all the events and stuff, so people probably know who she is anyway. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely seems like part of the prize that he gives his like head neurosurgeon is that they get to date his daughter.
I had in my notes, tell me you're an object, not a person, without saying the actual words aloud.
Well, it's
She is.
also, I think she's as much in it for herself. She's just like,
Oh
no, I
yeah.
am just whoever my dad says is the top dog is who I can leech off of for the rest of my life.
Listen, the first song on her personal playlist is Gold Digger.
Mm-hmm.
She's just the worst.
Oh yeah.
Not that her dad is any better,
This
but she
show
is.
has a lot of people contending for worst.
I know but it's anyway.
But that's also why I was cheering at this point, because I'm like, yes, the life that was going to eat you alive has just dropped you. You're free, my guy. This is the best thing that could happen to you.
We
Yeah.
know this, but he doesn't because he wanted to, maybe not get promoted, but at least be able to do his research, to be able to advance. He has
Mm-hmm.
that drive.
Life finds a
In
way.
fact, yeah, he goes to talk to the only person who will listen to him about all his woes. A kid who has a hole in his head.
I mean, arguably at this point, listening is potentially subjective.
True.
Yeah. And he's just sitting there telling them, you need to live because I need you to show that everyone's equal. This is probably like that I can think of the 4 episodes, the most heartfelt you feel for someone.
Hmm.
Because as far as conversations, because he's just laying it all out. I risked everything, so we're gonna get better, and I still believe in good things, but it's gonna take a while, essentially. And you kind of feel bad for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, his sister just wanders around the hospital, but neither here nor there.
She's got
I
business to attend to. Let her cook.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus because I did put in my notes. Trauma sister is on the loose. Because I didn't somehow missed her name at that point, so I'm like, what do I refer to her as?
We were getting ready to see that Dr. Tenma is no longer taking care of the little boy. And that's where we were, is looking up the names of the children. Right.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Okay. So the kids' names are Anna and Johann Liebert,
Ah,
and they were the son of Mr. and Mrs. Liebert.
those are very German names. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Very East German.
When I hear Johann, I'm like, you're East German, aren't you? They're like, yeah. Uh, so, yeah, Dr. Tenma is no longer on Johann's case because we see, or no, it's not Johann, it's Anna. Dr. Boyer has taken over, and he is trying to desperately get Anna to talk because the police are kind of wanting her to talk as well.
Yeah,
And even though,
understandably, they kind of want to know what happened in the house.
yeah, and the detective is kind of adamant about it, even though the doctors are like, just so you know, she may not be ready for this. They
Yeah,
keep
and
trying and trying and trying.
yeah, Dr. Tenma very adamantly was like, no, she is not ready to talk to anyone. Do not talk to her. So of
Mm.
course, um,
Boyer?
no, so of course Dr. Heineman or Director Heineman takes him off the case and gives it to Dr. Boyer, who's the new head. And this part infuriated me just like on a medical level.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, oh my god, this is like not how you take care of a kid in this situation.
Oh, we're getting to the point where Dr. Tenma finds out he's now off of the children's case, and we see Dr. Boyer coming along with a camera to take snapshots of the two children finally being reunited
Ugh, yeah, as a PR stunt.
for publicity's purpose. And we see this really tragic scene of these children trying to get back together with, I don't really think Anna does anything, but
No,
Johann just is like,
she's still like catatonic.
yep. He is just like wanting to be with a sister from our point of view. And it's just heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
and it's just horrible. Uh, we're moving on to the end where a nurse goes to, you know, chat with Dr. Boyer, kind of explain how things are going along, and she walks into a room, and apparently there was a lot of exhaustion going on with all these urgent cases because there's a couple bodies taking a nap on the ground. Uh, it's in fact Chief Heineman and Dr. Boyer, both killed. Dun dun dun.
shame that.
You well, Dr. Boyer went out the same way a few of his patients did.
Listen, I ain't gonna lie.
Not being taken care of by Dr. Boyer.
No, he was taken care of appropriately. I'm not gonna lie, I did a victory lap when I saw that scene. Like, hey, there we go.
Of note, we do know that Dr. Tenma was not there, I don't think, because he was sleeping at the time.
He went out and got very, very drunk and then crashed at his house.
Yes, that's what it was.
Because he was sad for some reason. It's not like the whole world went horrible.
Yeah. Oof, yeah.
Did we skip over the scene like when they're dealing with the kids? They literally steal candy from the kids, like
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, we
that's
did
right.
kinda, yeah.
That's right.
That was right
Which
before,
both
or right as he
matters
found out.
and
Yeah.
is horrible.
yeah, which
Yeah,
is like,
literally stealing candy from children. Yeah.
because I was just like, okay, high level, this is what they're doing is they are using these children as resources, and we're paralleling that by literally stealing the candy from children, these
Mm-hmm.
unlabeled but obviously Werther's butterscotch hard candies.
Yeah.
But this is
Don't mock Werther's,
also
they're amazing.
interesting
I
to
fucking
note.
love Werther's.
Yeah, they're really good. But it is an important scene because this comes into play later.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I'm like, Man of Werther sounds good. Not from the hands of an unconscious recovering child.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That sets up Dr. Boyer being just as bad as the rest of them.
Yeah, because they all eat of the child candy.
They all steal from the tree of ill-gotten candy. Yeah. Yeah, so her dad's a prick. Like, that's, again, I'm just going into the nicest things I can say about him.
I was gonna say this is a happy ending that shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't typically go, yeah, so and so died. Cool. That's not normally who I am, but man, this I again, I'm very much restraining my feelings to as much as I can on the father because I could just go off. But God, for everything is bad about his daughter, you can honestly see how it came to be by him.
Yeah.
So she is nothing but a reflection on just how much worse he is because he instilled that into his child. So that's why I'm gonna say he's kind of worse because he made her that way. And again, that whole, hey, by the way, you're essentially fired without firing you, and doing it kind of like he did. I'm like, no, yeah, that's pretty classic gotcha moment stuff. Doesn't make it suck any less. And then holding essentially his career hostage. Oh yeah, it's like at any point in that conversation, had I been in Tenma's place, I think I would have just dropped my drink and started strangling him.
Mm-hmm. There's
And
part of what actually like I enjoy about this show is that it actually tickles the same part of my brain as 24, which is just, hey, if you want a show that is going to show some people who totally deserve it absolutely getting it, apparently Monster's going to hook you up, at least in the second episode.
24 Kiefer Sutherland in 24?
Yes.
I have honestly not watched it.
Never
Maybe I need to
watched
watch that.
Oh my god. Hey, guess
Yes, I
what
need
we're
to watch it.
watching? Guess what we're gonna watch together?
Where were we?
We were just finishing up talking about episode 2. Did anyone else have anything to discuss?
Like I just can't with her father. I hate to use a phrase like that, but I just can't. It's one of those like. So yeah, seeing Boyer and what was it, the other lackey, just kind of meet their end, and then they
Oppenheim.
thank you,
Yeah,
and then
Heinemann or Oppenheim?
Dr. Director Heinemann, Dr. Boyer, and Dr. Oppenheim
so yeah, seeing
are the ones
Oppenheim and
that
Boyer
died.
get it, and then following up with just the coup de grace of at the director's home, Ava walking in on Daddy's dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Like, karmic justice. Oh, it's so good. These empty calories, but they're so good.
It's like, oh no, please, it's terrible. I hate it. No, don't stop.
Won't somebody think of his
Uh-huh.
daughter?
That's the thing though, is like with Ava specifically, I have like a small like twinge of feeling bad for her, but only because her dad raised her to be this way kind of thing. And it's like I don't know. There's like it's that delicious mix of like when you really hate a character, but you also kind of feel a little bit sorry for them.
It's
So,
that
oh, sorry.
there's no bad dogs, there's only bad owners. It's kind of that vibe, but it's just like, you're not a dog, you're a person though, so you get
Yeah.
less credit than the dog.
Yeah, no, like absolutely, she's still like making decisions and stuff, but I just like feel bad that she was brought to be that kind of person.
So to your point, here's why I can't feel bad for her. She is just self-aware enough that of what she's doing and being consciously aware of what she's doing
Oh
and
yeah.
making the choices she has. I can't feel for her because even a quote unquote no bad dogs, just bad dog owners, the dog has to be told to do the bad thing. No one told her to do it. Yeah,
No,
it's
yeah, like
kind of
that's like I said, I don't feel bad for like her. I feel bad for her like that she was built this way kind of thing.
yeah. Oh,
The
I
situation
pity her.
sucks.
Yeah, the situation sucks. She was, you know, all hope was lost because of who her father was, and apparently her mother had no input. Um, but because of who she ended up being, it's like, yeah, no, no, won't somebody think of his daughter? Oh
Mm-hmm.
no.
It
Anyone, hey, you want to go to a bar?
Yeah, after that conversation in the restaurant about like, some people just are of a lower class. It's just like, oh, you're done. You're like, sorry, you are beyond being rescued. Sorry,
hmm
bye.
So what you're telling me is kill. Got it. When the great anarchy comes, the 1% get their ends. I know what bonfire you're gonna be on. Got it.
So like, because this was, I'd never known anything about the show before. I was kept trying to guess where the show was going to go. So like, at first it was just like, oh, like young surgical genius. Is this show a blackjack? And then by the time chapter 2 comes, or yeah, episode 2 comes, and like his life is getting destroyed around him, I'm like, oh, is this basically the story of blackjack, except instead of becoming blackjack he becomes Gogol 13? Because like, so like,
Holy shit, I get that, and yeah.
when I went to watch this on Netflix, like Joe had described this as like, yeah, this is a show about a neurosurgeon and it's a thriller. And then the Netflix thumbnail is just like, here's a dork with a sniper rifle. And I'm like, cool? Wait,
Nani?
what? Um so yeah, this is still me like, and even at the end where it's just like, these dudes die. We still don't know how they died, but like, I'm just like, okay, does Tenma go sicko mode? Does he become a blackout assassin? Is he a Moon Knight now? Like, what's going on?
Oh,
I was just like, there's so many ways this could go, and I'm kind of down for any of them. That's interesting.
I envy you because I wish I didn't have the secondhand knowledge I did going into this because yeah, I really enjoy the idea of I won't say which ones, but there are certain ideas you had there of like the directions can go. Like, oh my god, I wish I could feel that excitement because that would be in my imagination. I kind of love that show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess we could say by the end of episode 2, some scales are balanced.
Yeah, some things are afoot, which we find out more of as we go into episode 3, Murder Case.
'Cause,
Which
hey,
is a
now the
whole
cops
case of
are
murder.
involved.
Yes,
Whole
in
case
fact,
of
that's how it
murder.
opens.
hmm
The cops are visiting Dr. Tenma, saying, "Hey, just so you know, some murders have happened." And Dr. Tenma's like, "Oh, hey." because he's just been napping.
Yeah, nothing starts a day with a hangover better than being a potential suspect in 3 murders.
Mm-hmm. I have a airtight alibi. Just ask my good friend James Beam.
Now, after the intro, we go to the funeral of everyone. Well, not of everyone. It's pretty much just Dr. Director
Yeah, it's the
Heineman.
director's funeral.
Yep. Because we see Ava laying there crying because all of her money is going into the grave. Which
Mm,
I don't quite understand that. Does she not get an inheritance or anything?
I don't know if they
Because
address it, but I
I
kind of
mean,
in. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
sure, but then there's no more like income coming
Yeah,
in.
she's on a ticking clock, Bob. Literally
the
a
only
dollar
reason I
by
asked,
dollar.
I only asked that because of future situations.
Yeah,
That being
honestly,
said,
well,
okay.
Bob, I don't know if this is actually something they discuss in the series or not, but in my mind, often when, certain rich persons of, not great quality die, you usually find out, oh, they were actually really in a lot of debt or didn't actually have as much money as they say they did. I can kind of believe if it's not actually in the narrative, that kind of, it could be probably inferred that he may not just have actually as much money as he, made it out to be by
Uh,
his lifestyle.
See, I was thinking that this is a case of like, um, she, considering she is like definitely a middle-aged woman and still living with her father, and living in a lap of luxury like that, like even if she does get an inheritance, she doesn't know how to pay bills. She's gonna
Mm,
live the rest of her life with things getting repoed out from under her.
not only that,
I
too,
will,
considering there's a murder investigation, she's probably not getting that anytime soon, even if there is one.
Also true.
and I think that she may know more than what you may think she does. But let's get through the funeral here of the police walking up, and we meet. I don't. I am not good with names with this show, so I will call him Fingerhand Man. He's
Yes,
Officer
we
Fingerhand.
we meet inspectors Weisbach and Lunga.
Which one is the
Uh
typer?
huh.
Lunga, I think, is the typerman.
Yes, Detective Lunge.
Gotcha. So Detective Lunge is very interesting when we meet him. He really seems to be kind of the more intelligent of the two. Not to say that the other one's not intelligent. Let me caveat that. They both seem equally intelligent. But Inspector Lunge also has a tick
Uh-huh.
that we pick up too because they focus on it. And we learn about it later, the reason why.
Yeah, long story short, he's doing some mind palace stuff, but just by
Hmm.
typing with his fingers. It's such a weird tick. It actually kind of gave me Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks vibes. It's just like,
Okay.
oh,
Yes.
this guy is a weirdo, but he's going to be a good detective because of that, huh?
Yeah. I shouldn't be surprised you know that. I'm just surprised. It's been so long since I've met someone that actually do Twin Peaks. Oh, thank you. Because that's kind of where I was going in my notes. Like, he's either got like a medical condition or this is just Dale Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
German Dale Cooper. And oh, yes, thank you. Because when I saw his hand doing the clicky clacky motion of the typewriter, like, I was thinking, like, okay, this is like some 4D chess stuff. He is trying to maybe see how good of a doctor he is, to try and maybe see if he's diagnosing something that might be a neurological, you know, trying to set him up to get information that may or may not be there, engage Tenma. But then it's like, no, I'm just taking notes in a specific way. Like, okay, did anyone else hear the theme from Twin Peaks just start going?
Mm-hmm.
Because I sure did.
Between our now cop detective who is some sort of perfect memory detective and also our main guy being Dr. Tenma, I had just recently finished watching Pluto on Netflix, and I'm just like, man, Pluto's such a good show. So every time I'm thinking about this show, I keep flashing on Pluto. Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there. That has been added to my list for sure.
I can't wait. Pluto Nash,
That's right.
a, yeah,
The strongest
a
Eddie
show
Murphy.
or a movie that people forgot existed till just right now.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I have met Dave once or twice in my life. Ghost Dad.
That's sad. I'm
Anyway,
sorry. Yeah. Pressing on. Leaving the hospital, well, not leaving the hospital, going to the hospital scene, because there's probably a couple days between the funeral and when we see Dr. Tenma again. He's attending to his patients. And like he continues to be a really good doctor. He has this great moment with a patient where they just talk about him going back to work, and if he finds out that he's working too hard, he's gonna have a stern talking to. Like, it's really cute. Like, I want this guy to be my doctor. And Dr. Tenma leaves the room, and people are walking up to him saying, "Hey, don't leave the hospital. We trust you. We know you wouldn't kill people for your advantage," regardless of what everyone says in this board meeting. And because Dr. Tenma has been called in front of everyone who owns the hospital and all things. Is all I can figure it is.
It's some sort of
And we
board of trustees or something.
and I can tell you with the way this show was going, I'm like, oh, good. So we're gonna see him start from the bottom because the intro definitely leads you to believe something's going on with Dr. Tenma because he grows his hair out and looks really got. Uh,
He ends up looking
and
like
cool,
the dog from Magus Bride.
pretty much.
Poor Ruth.
So he goes to the board, and the chairman's like, like I said, you're only here because of your talent. So we're gonna name you the chief of surgery. And I was like, what? That's not what was supposed to happen. What? And I think Dr. Tenma is probably thinking the same thing. Like, uh, so I can publish again. Uh, After he finds out, I believe, he goes and meets old Ava again. You know, the true love of his life. And I don't know why he went to this meeting because he's the one who broke it off. I don't know if she asked to see him and he's just doing
I'm
her a
sure
courtesy.
he's a nice enough dude, yeah, that I think he would probably do her the courtesy of, like, being like, "Hey, you wanna meet up and I wanna talk about
And this
something."
is where I think she knows more about her finance situation than
Yeah.
you guys are giving her credit because she's like, I need a new sugar daddy because my last one's dead, my daddy's dead, so I
Well,
need someone.
to your point, Bob, we don't know exactly how much time has passed at this point. Or do we?
Granted.
Between the funeral, yeah, because the
Yeah. I don't
impending
think it was
timestamp
I don't
has
think it was
happened.
a long time because they'd need the same name a chief of surgery relatively quickly.
Yeah,
Right,
I think this is still like days.
and that's what I was thinking. I was going to say if it's been a couple days, she could have met with whatever lawyer or uh, person handling their affairs, and that in that time she could have just now been brought up to speed about it. So I'm going to say at this point, yeah, she knows something, but I'm also going to say beforehand, I don't think she did, because that's a reasonable kind of expectation under those circumstances.
Then
So
I think I will leave this with I'm going to do my best to make her even more horrible for you guys.
do it.
In the matter of 3 days, she went from mourning her husband or her father to being concerned about money and trying to meet up with the richest person she knew.
Listen,
It took 3 days to care about her father.
I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying my notes included she trying to her way to wealth and privilege. But yeah, you're
But she
right.
is.
Yeah, she is
He,
wholeheartedly.
he could
I
have
mean, I'm
taken this
not
time
saying it.
to look for a job, to
Hey, what?
reassess her finances, a lot of
What?
things, because this is Germany. This isn't other places where, you know, other ways could be used to finance for herself. But
Oh
nope,
no, she could still finance those through other means. Just they would just call it a relationship of convenience.
which is what she wanted.
I mean, yeah,
The relationship of her
And
convenience.
yeah. I didn't say whose
and
convenience, just convenience.
Dr. Tenma is like, no, we finally get Dr. Tenma. He has finally come, more than the guy who said, no, I'm going to do the surgery. He's finally standing up to the people he knows who are not making good decisions in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, chief surgeon or chief neurosurgeon.
I was hollering at this point. I'm so happy for the boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was so surprised. Like, my jaw hit the floor when they're like, because I was thinking, any other crime drama, it's okay. Yeah, we this hospital want to disassociate from you because you might be a suspect in a murder and we can't prove you're not. So yeah, get out. And instead, it's just like, no, you big brain smart, best neurosurgeon, you now chief neurosurgeon. Good boy. I you could have knocked me over with a feather.
Mm-hmm. And because that's the thing, right? Like, originally he was on track to be the head of neurosurgery, but the
Mhm.
board made him the head of surgery. So he actually ends up getting a higher position than what he was originally on track for.
Oh, I wrote my note. Oh yeah, I misread my notes.
Yeah,
Yeah, chief surgery, not neurosurgery. My mistake. Yes. So yeah, he's the de facto
He's the chief of surgery
surgeon.
boss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is the head honcho. He went from being like a head honcho, potentially to a head honcho, to no career, to my word is next to God's in this hospital. Yeah, that's
And
a.
it's just
Mm.
it's
go ahead.
impressive.
Oh yeah.
Is
this where we have the time jump?
It is,
Yes.
but before we do that, I think we did miss one thing. We at some point before now we have gotten sort of the breakdown on how the 3 doctors died.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh
yes.
yeah, they were poisoned with candy.
Specifically, the nitric acid that was found to be delivered via ... candy.
Yeah, they were overdosed on muscle relaxants, so they vibed out so hard that they died.
Mood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, the legally distinct not Werther's wrapper on the ground at every scene.
Oh yeah, like the 6 or dozen on the ground at each death scene.
Oh, I love it.
We also forgot to mention that when the doctors were found dead, like way back at the beginning,
Mhm.
he also discovers that the twins have disappeared from the hospital.
Right, the
Oh,
trauma
that's
twins
right.
are gone.
Yep.
So like all kinds of shit happened that day.
It was a busy day.
Or Inspector Lunge. Although I don't think he cares about anything but the murders.
Mm.
Because after the time jump, I think he's the first one we see.
Yes, because we are investigating a
Murder because there were boats. So
yeah, a murder in a
flood.
flooded area of Germany in 1995. You know, the Wayback Machine of 1995. Bob, do you remember 1995?
Hush you.
I mean, I do too.
Yes, I remember 1995. We'll just go with that.
So do all of us. We're fine. We're fine. Which also just to update the home game, this is a 9-year time skip from where we were. So now it is 1995, and Dr. Tenma is 37 years old now.
A realistic age. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anime, what are you doing?
Again, seinen show. So this is a main character who is at the age group that we expect to be reading it, and this is who it is aimed for.
I love seinen shows.
They're pretty good.
But this is where we realize that Inspector Lunge's pick is because he is making an invisible manuscript in his mind. He's using his hand to type on an invisible typewriter to remember everything. He's just that smart. Or is he? Oh, we get the really cute scene with a kite.
Yep.
He is still showing he's the chief of surgery playing with a poor handicapped kid with a kite.
You know what else is still there after 9 years?
All of his hair.
Dr. Becker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, my notes are like, how are you still here, Becker?
What's funny is they still talk, so it's more proof that Becker, not a bad guy,
just a jaded old curmudgeon.
Like, I wonder what his specialty is. Oh, look, here comes. I don't know.
His specialty is telling it the way it is.
I think he said he works in the ER.
I think you are right. I just don't know if I'm imagining that or not. So I'm going to defer to your judgment, Joe.
And we're slowly going to start blending our stories because the person who Inspector Lunje and his associate are looking for, Adolf Junkers, although I read it as Junkers too, not going to lie, gets hit by a car. And because he's a person of interest, he gets taken to the hospital, and they're like, hey, he's really important to a case of murders. Can you please make sure he doesn't die? And who are you going to call when you don't need people to die? Of course, it's Dr. Tenma. They'll probably bring him back to life, play some checkers later, do some interpretive dance, and then paint a lovely picture.
Talk about how it's never too late to become a born-again moral person. Regular doctor stuff.
Like, in retrospect, as we talk about it now, it's like he's a verge unbelievable, but because he's so good, you want to just believe him.
He's
He is a very good boy.
He's walking a fine line.
He's our 37-year-old cinnamon roll, and I will not hear a bad word about him.
Listen, I need to believe somewhere in the world there's a 37-year-old cinnamon roll that is just holding on to the faith.
So Dr. Tenma comes along to see, of all people, Dr. Linja. And I wonder if Dr. Tenma, or Inspector, I wonder if Dr. Tenma remembers the Inspector. Because the Inspector definitely remembers Dr. Tenma.
I think he catches
Because
on pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's
he
one of
helps
those,
him
like,
out.
Yeah, I think he had one of those memos like, we met. Oh, yeah, that triple homicide.
It was the best day, worst day ever.
It was the best worst day and the worst best day of my life.
The problem is Dr. Tenma is such a good guy, he was probably really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're all
Yeah.
woo! He's probably like, oh, the poor, bad, evil people.
Yeah, sometimes being a cinnamon roll is annoying.
Oh, of course, Dr. Tenma does his super miracle work, and Yonkers is completely fine. We end the scene with Yonkers waking up and freaking out. And that's the end of the episode, I believe.
The monster's coming.
Yep.
And my note here is just, who will be the monster at the end of this anime? I have to know.
I just put in, after the monster is coming in my notes, I said, cue Godzilla theme.
And so far, nothing leads me to believe supernatural or sci-fi, so I'm not like, that Satan is appearing.
Oh.
The meat substitute?
Yes, the meat substitute.
Yeah, Satan.
No, that's that
I
really
don't-
smooth fabric.
Satin.
No, that's a kind of a color red.
Cinnamon.
Oh,
No,
that's
that's the planet with rings.
Jupiter.
No, that's a car
Dr.
company.
That. Oh.
Mercury.
Yeah. I was like Mercury. Mercury. Actually, I was gonna say Mercury Sable.
Hey, wait, how come there are multiple car manufacturers named after planets? Anyway.
I have been wondering this since I was 8 years old.
Okay, my favorite one is Saturn, and they aren't made anymore, and it just makes me sad.
Also, Subaru is technically one because that's the Pleiades.
Oh, yeah, that's why their logo is stars, huh?
We got there, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it doesn't answer the question. It just raises more.
Exactly.
Like you'll be
Just
telling
like
me
this
that you
show.
don't want to own a Mars rover.
No,
I would love to own a Mars rover. Big old RC car.
I still remember the Mars rover from 2000, the one that was programmed in miles and landed in or operated in kilometers, something to that effect.
Oh my god.
Big go boom.
Okay, are we ready to jump into episode 4?
Yes.
Yeah, let's follow Detective Linguini.
We are going to follow Ratatouille chef Detective Linguini into episode 4, The Night of Execution. But that's when you
say
talk
we're
real
following
fancy,
the-
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Bonjour, welcome to the night of the execution.
Elocution.
No, that's when you die from being zapped.
Electrocution.
No, you said the real one.
Yeah, that's how you start it. You start with the real ones, and then you deviate hard.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Asphyxiation.
Lord save me. We open with Dr. Tenma meeting up with Yonkers and having a conversation.
Open is when the kid
And
doesn't have parents anymore, right?
Operation. What Junkers survive.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
okay. All right, I'm good.
and and we joked at the end of the last episode, but guess what? Dr. Tenma's doing his best to make Yonkers a good guy. Even though Inspector Linguini, I guess we're going with, is dead set and knows that Yonkers had something to do with murder of the blood people. Because he has typewriter hands.
Yeah, there's been a series. Because of the flood, they've been finding bodies that were stashed a while ago. And there's been a series of break-ins at couples' homes, and then the couples are killed, and he's on that case.
Yeah,
Like,
it's all
specifically, aren't their throats slashed?
and it's only couples who don't have children for some reason.
Right.
So specific, so
Oh.
picky.
Yeah. After this scene, we got a scene from, an American sitcom where the good and loving doctor sits and has a conversation with one of the bad kids. It's like, you could be good. Everything could be fine. And Yonkers is like, but I did bad things. And don't matter, because Dr. Tenma's like, but you can be good. I tell you, Dr. Tenma, if you weren't so gosh darn lovable, you would be a trope.
Like, there's a version of Dr. Tenma which is just a youth pastor. It's so weird. At least in this scene.
There's a version of this show where Dr. Tenma is just like Dr. Cox from Scrubs, and I want to see that one too.
Yeah.
And
Because honestly, Bob Kelso is the chief of neurosurgery at that point. That's kind of just Cummins.
now, in part of the conversation, Yonkers was talking about how there was this one time he saw a cuckoo clock, which has a nutcracker instead of a cuckoo, that he just wishes he had. Where while, once again, Dr. Tenma and his boy, Gossip Girl, go out in town, because Gossip Girl's like, you got to get laid. And Dr. Tenma's like,
No, I got to buy this clock. See ya.
Yep, because he sees the clock in the store, and he's like, that's it. Because he's the world's best doctor. He does everything for every single individual. Like, I hope this is a hospital of like 5 people with the dedication he has.
Mm-hmm.
Because he does not have enough time in a day to care about every single person coming into this hospital, and yet somehow you believe he does.
Well, since he only deals with like the really difficult surgeries and stuff, I imagine he doesn't have too many people to look after at a time.
Yeah, chief of
I
surgery
need to break
doesn't
all of the
typically-
bones in my body.
Yeah, chief of surgery
Just so I
doesn't
can meet Dr.
typically
Tenma.
get involved, if I understand the role correctly, unless it's super important.
But even then, he's not technically a neurosurgeon. That's his specialty. But as chief of surgery, he could enter into other ones and give advice.
Yeah, I think it's more of like an overseeing role. So he probably
Mhm.
touches most cases a very little bit, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he can still have his pick of neurosurgeries as well.
Oh, yeah.
He can be like, that super rare bug in someone's brain? I'm going to pick that out.
Still
The
a
cicada?
And then I'm going... And then we're going to go on canoe trips down the Rhine later on, don't worry. But that's a very Tenma thing to do. So he picks up this cuckoo clock, which I'm sorry, I will say it is not a cuckoo clock.
It is not
It's
a
just
cuckoo
not.
clock.
It's just a clock with a nutcracker, which is weird, but it's what Yonkers likes.
Hey, Joe, you looking up the definition of a cuckoo clock over there?
Well, okay, 'cause there's I know enough about cuckoo clocks to know that It's a very there's a it's a very, like, German artisan thing,
It, ha-
like, the best ones come from Germany and stuff.
it had to come from
Um
the
Yeah.
cuckoo region of Germany.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to
Oh,
remember, like, if they're specifically called that because of the
Otherwise,
cuckoo or
if it has a nutcracker, it's just a ballbuster clock.
while we research clocks, we'll continue on because Dr. Tenma is all proud of caring about his patients, bringing this ridiculous clock back to the hospital because he believes in saving Junker's soul from being this bad murderer, being a good citizen who is probably still going to be arrested. Uh, he goes up the stairs and sees that the cop guarding the door is really tired as well. Walking up, I believe he sees candy on the floor, and that the cop is dead.
Nani?
Oh my god. Still with the candy. I don't. Okay.
I am correct there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
are.
are.
Candy involved?
Yeah. Yeah, listen,
And
said candy murderer, knows if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Unless you fix it with
and
candy.
and Dr. Tenma and myself are convinced that they're going to go in there and see Junkers dead as well. But no, Junkers is like, peace out. He is on the run because he does not want to be, killed as well. Spoilers. Uh, so somehow, in ways that I do not quite understand, Dr. Tenma does end up finding Junkers. I don't know. Because it's an abandoned building, isn't it? Where they find him?
It's.
Yeah, I think he catches sight of him at one point when trying to find him.
I think it's like under construction across the street or something. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a building in the process of becoming fully building.
Where Dr. Tenma it uses his superhuman abilities to there he is. To be fair, this is a guy running around in a hospital gown,
Yeah.
but still. So Dr. Tenma's like, hey, everything all right? And that's when Junkers explains, hey, there's another person who told me and my compatriots to kill off people. And this boss of ours is the one who killed my compatriots, and now he's out to kill me. And hey, just so you know, Dr. Tenma, you need to get out of here. And Dr. Tenma, he's really good at listening to certain instructions. He cares too much. He's like, no, 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 everything be all right. And then a mysterious figure appears. He's like, I'll kill you. Pulls out a gun. And Junkers is still like, get out of here, Dr. Tenma. You don't want to deal with this. And then Dr. Tenma tries to appeal to, mysterious figure. And the mysterious figure understands and agrees and then shoots Junkers.
Mm-hmm.
And Junkers is no more. So I guess he's not getting that cuckoo clock.
Junkers
I hope he
gets
saved his
yonked.
receipt.
Well, no, he dropped it when he noticed the dead people, so it's broke. He ain't getting his deposit back on that clock.
Aw. Well, he's a doctor. Maybe he can fix it.
I mean, we
I
did
think that's one of
skip
those.
over the
we-
why he was killed.
No, because he was associated with this
The
serial
killer.
Yeah.
farming.
The boss.
Yeah, they went into detail saying like, yeah, the monster is cleaning house, no loose ends.
Even though
Which,
we
you know,
still
And-
don't necessarily know why he was targeting these specific couples or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, and do we want to? Bob? Are you going to give us the reveal of who the
Yes.
monster is?
The veil is lifted and steps forward, and we have no idea who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
But we do. He introduced himself. Hello, it's me, Johann. He didn't have any chocolate. Still kind of disappointed with a name like Johann. I expect it. But at first I was like, Johann who? And then it clicked. It's the boy. I was totally expecting Anna. Not gonna lie.
She was the
Except,
one out there
when
saying
you
kill,
see-
kill, kill.
Yeah, when you see the profile, my mind did not go to Johann yet at all. But once he explained who he was, even Dr. Ten was like, what? And does the whole... They really have a thing with the catatonic state going on.
Yeah.
He's just frozen there. And Johann does not kill Dr. Tenma because Dr. Tenma saved Johann's life.
But
And
what was he
go ahead.
saying? I won't kill you right now to pay you back, or is he saying it's like, no, I can never kill you because I owe you my life? Because like that I think
That
makes
I don't
for
know.
I hope it's the second one because that really makes for interesting like stakes and systems. It gets us almost into that Columbo situation where it's like Columbo is always safe because he's a cop and you can't just kill a cop. So that's
The
an
the
interesting
read I
setup.
have is that he is not going to kill him.
Yeah, me too.
You saved my
Same.
life, and now I'm doing you these favors, amongst other
I
things.
killed all those people in the way for you.
Aren't I a good boy?
You are welcome.
Right.
Yeah,
So like this is also the big reveal that he's the one who killed the three doctors 9 years ago when he was
Mhm.
just fresh out of being catatonic. But okay, help me out here. Is my memory just wrong? Because I thought the whole scene of Tenma venting to the kid, which, you know, the explanation ends up being like, oh, I did hear you when you were venting to me, and you said they would be
mhm.
better dead, right? So I'm just doing what you asked for. But I thought the doctors took the candy before that scene happened.
They
I,
did, but that doesn't mean they stopped with one.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You think they didn't come back for more, or just take the bag?
I mean, I think I for some reason I have this expectation of the show that because it is a thriller and it is the seinen and it is like the mystery show, like it is going to do the thing where you can follow along, like the way that they like
I
focus on
think
the typing
You
hand,
catch it on rewatch.
I think
maybe.
his no, I think him doing that was before they did the candy thing because I
Oh,
think
really?
yeah, wasn't it? Because then he finds out that
Oh, I think you're right because
they
that's right
took over
before.
the sister.
Yes,
Yeah,
right before they move him to the other guy's care. So, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Mm,
Joe, look at you,
okay.
keeping us online.
Still doesn't explain how a little kid fresh off of brain trauma knows how to lace candy with lethal doses of muscle relaxants, but at least the timeline checks out. I'll accept that much.
Listen, don't
maybe he just
question the
grabbed
power
whatever
of
medicine
Satan.
was available.
I'll stick with the
Uh,
don't argue with Satan.
that works too. Uh, so this episode ends with Inspector Lunja talking to Dr. Tenma, who still realistically upset, but was like, "Hey, you know that kid that got lost? He's totally doing it. Totally believable." So Inspector's like, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Hold on,
sure."
I'm changing his name now to Inspector MK.
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, well, you're explaining all this, but also you're the only one who's benefiting from all of this. So
Cite your
I'm gonna
sources.
yeah, I'm gonna remain suspicious."
And that's the end of the episode.
I mean, my big takeaway from all this is don't eat Werther's originals now.
I did consider
Only
also
around children.
putting yeah, I did consider also putting episode 5 on the list because that sort of, like, kicks off what everything that follows, but I figured 4 is our usual amount, and also it just kind of is a nice, clean opening.
Yeah, it's a really nice cliffhanger to sort of be like, hey, this is what this show is about. It's like here's the issue. Here's like the what the manhunt is gonna be.
Yeah, I would even say, without knowing what's on episode 5, I would say this is a pretty good kickoff unto itself. It's like, all right, we know some the major players on the field for the moment. Let's go.
Also, the
And
show's just
what's
been
nice,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's nice is the time jump being in the middle of an episode instead of between two episodes,
Mm,
so you get a flow as opposed to a hard break.
I agree.
Yeah, the pacing in this show has been really well constructed. Like every episode has like a meaningful change to the state of the world and people, and you're not like there are things that are like introduced and then hang out, but it's never like a slow burn waiting for something to happen. There's always something interesting and meaningful going on.
Yes, I agree. This has that bridge of pacing that I like. I don't need it to be a crawl. I'm good with a slow burn. Don't get me wrong, but it's also not whiplash fast. It has a good continuous pace and just maintains it, and that I appreciate above all else.
Anyone have anything else on this episode?
I mean, that I think that pretty much opens it up. That now we can start introducing our final thoughts on everything. Yeah. What do you think, Bob? How'd you feel overall?
Overall, after the first episode, I was like, oh, great, it's Grey's Anatomy. We've got the drama, the hospital drama. We've got the romance and these politics, which I work in the medical field. I don't see that, but it wouldn't surprise me if it exists. And there's enough medical drama shows in American viewership that you're like, oh, great, it's one of these. But the characters are interesting enough. Come episode 2, you start getting a little bit more intrigue. You're like, huh, this isn't something that I'm accustomed to. I can't think of an analog for American culture where there's a murder in a hospital and a whodunit. Uh, with episode 3, with everything kind of turning around, I just find myself more hooked and wanting to know. And like I said, while we review these episodes, while Dr. Tenma seems a little too altruistic, like too perfect, he didn't hit that point. He still had his flaws, especially as we saw in the first episode, to make him relatable. And with Inspector Lunge around, kind of being a foil, but not, because he's doing his job too, of trying to solve a crime. And honestly, all of the things do point to Dr. Tenma. Everything is working out perfectly for him. I would be suspicious of him, flying kites or not. And because this show is extremely well paced, I'll spoil our usual question. Say, I do plan on continuing watching this.
Yeah.
This is it's so, I can tell that it's an anime, but this is the type of anime that can truly have that cross appeal to your average American citizen. You
Yeah.
could get by having someone watch this and not tell them that it's an anime if they didn't know what anime was. Like, you could get your grandma to watch this and they'd be like, "Oh, this is interesting."
I
Yeah.
love this Disney cartoon I never saw.
Exactly.
It definitely, like, watching it definitely has a feel more of like a. I mean, House is an obvious comparison, also because I watched a lot of House, but like, also there were some comparisons to 24. There's a lot of like cop and medical shows that you could go to, a lot of like Western media. It's just like, oh, okay, this is just like, a lot of times, I'll say something is very anime, and that is specifically about like, oh, this is a show that is going to deal with like a certain style of humor, a certain like, there's a certain expectation of like characters and personalities that will appear. Like when you say it's anime, you may be like, oh, there's going to be like an Edward Elric style character in there somewhere. But this is just like a good fiction that doesn't
And
have anything necessarily anime about it, except for its real like literal production history.
there's no robot waifu. There's
Well,
no
there's no
horse.
robot waifu.
There's no flying pussyfoot.
Mm, we only watched 4 episodes. I'm willing to believe that there's a flying pussyfoot somewhere later on.
Yeah, they're in Germany. I'm sure there'll be trains.
That's true. They're in Germany. I love trains out there. Very punctual.
What's your opinion, Chuck?
So, okay. Narrative. I like the narrative so far. I think it's great. Like I said, I had kind of like what I'd call a very superficial understanding of the plot explained to me a couple of times throughout my life. And I liked some of I liked the parts I didn't know about, because, it's always nice to have a little surprise come in once in a while. Um, here's the hard part for me. And let me caveat with this. This is absolutely a me thing.
Mm-hmm.
The first part, the first part, we're going to go with just a stylistic choice. I hate the intro because the intro is so 2000s anime. It kind of reminds me of like Witch Hunter Robin, especially the animation style. Yeah, I got you. And for some reason, it worked in Witch Hunter Robin to not like jar me so much as it does here. I couldn't tell you why, but the intro specifically, like the visuals, just for whatever reason, kind of make me a little nauseous in the way they're presented. Nothing about them is like gross. It's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. So, like I said, it's a me thing. It's a visual stylistic thing that just kind of affects me. So, like,
There
so I
was
absolutely
there was something about the show that was very blurry, and like for a
right.
while I just thought that it was just like, hey, am I getting like the highly compressed stream of it? But like no, it was like a very clear stream of something that was very blurry for no it because it was there was something going on
Yeah, and that's why
as
I call it
well.
like very 2000 and specifically throw Witch Hunter Robin under the bus because the animation style, even like the character designs, like I can see I could believe it without looking it up if the same studio did both, or at least some of the same like designers were involved. That said, there is a show this kind of started to remind me of that I watched, which I would say is probably a seinen. It's absolutely a horror. And boy, did I not know what I was getting into. Made the mistake of watching it all the way through weekly, just kind of saying, like, okay, but what's the turnaround? And this is probably the one anime I will ever say that I will never recommend to anyone, regardless of their tastes.
Okay.
And no matter how much they can handle a certain thing, Babylon.
Huh. Okay. I've heard the name.
Yes, it's
Well, I've
the
heard after 4 it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a very interesting premise, and then once you understand what the actual reveal of who the baddie is, it literally goes immediately into unnecessarily uncomfortable, just jarring. You don't really see it, but you kind of see enough of it to get the idea of what's going on. Torture porn
Ah.
in one episode, and it's just living with the memory of that through the rest of the series has jarred me enough that series that even kind of touch on it a little, like the same kind of tone, make me literally gun shy to continue watching it.
Sure.
And this is definitely touching on a darker tone. And to me, I love darker themes. I'm very good at handling it. But something about like combined with this animation style, the color usage, it's definitely giving me like a real shaky hand. Like I don't know if I can, because again, I'm already seeing things I didn't know that happened in here that aren't necessarily on that level by any means, but leaves my mind open enough to say, what else is in here that I don't know about?
Yeah.
So like I will say I like everything I've seen. I'm sure I would probably like this, and then if I am able to get past the shaky hand on the remote, I would probably continue watching this. I want to continue watching this. It's one of those I think I have to like just do it in small chunks. But yeah, like I said, it's been a real wrestle for me. But that's really the only negatives I have to say in that regards.
Yeah, like this definitely like I said, I came away from this with very like pretty positive vibes. Like there was everything about it just seemed like interesting story, interesting setup. You can see where the tension is going to be, and these are characters that I like hanging out with, and the ones that I don't like hanging out with seem like they're gonna get what's coming to them. And
Hmm.
all of that sets up like kind of make this easy to watch, kind of makes this something that is something that I like. It is just sort of a matter of the emotional intensity that like the characters go through. If you're somebody who is very high on like emotional mirroring, I feel like that makes this a bit of a hard watch, and I kind of am. So it's just like I don't know, like I am interested in this and the story and where it's going, and I think it would be all right to watch, but I don't know how much I could watch in one sitting, like I don't think this is necessarily like it's like, hey, I'm gonna curl up on the couch and binge this all day. I don't know if I could do it quite like that, but
I think I might be on the same level as you there in your description. It's much better than my own. Because yeah, I think I can watch this maybe a couple episodes at a time.
That makes sense.
does that mean it's time to put it on our lists?
Well, real
Yes.
quick, just so you know, as far as songs go,
Mm-hmm.
I would put this. And this is a show I plan on continue watching. Take this not to heart. Uh, Probably around 23.
Oh, so below Yu Yu Hakusho, above Agretsuko.
Yep.
Okay.
This did not speak to me. At least Big O makes me laugh.
Yeah. Like it. I think it is an interesting swing to take, but interesting doesn't always mean enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with Bob on this one.
Let's see here. Yeah, we don't really have any anime waifus. I can't even make a joke one.
Yeah, and I'm not going to even make the joke about the trauma sister because that's just bad taste. Because she went through something clearly very bad.
And also, we have not seen how she recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
she disappeared. I
She
assume she's
disappeared
still
too?
out there.
Yeah, we're making an assumption she recovered at all.
Yeah. You're muted.
Next episode is Tenma seeking her out, and so we see what she's been up to,
Fantastic.
and that kicks off everything.
Okay.
Is it murder?
I'm sure everything's
Also,
fine.
yeah, no, everything's fine. Also, I just wanted to say that in 2013, Guillermo del Toro was talking to HBO about making a live-action TV series of this, but HBO passed on it,
I
and
think I
that
would
makes
watch
me
that.
sad.
They honestly, I think this would rule. It's like an HBO show.
Yeah, this would probably be the perfect anime to try and put into a Western style because you can absolutely do it still in Germany. Enough
Let me
Americans
say
know
that
what a Germany is.
I would be cautious because I would be worried if they tried to do it nowadays, making it too gory.
Yeah, I can see your concern. I don't know, just because the material so far doesn't lend itself. But again, that's based on so far.
Yeah.
So put a
But
big
like
ol'
when he
asterisk.
shoots Yunker, Yunker dies. But on HBO, his
Yeah,
head would explode or something like a
I
melon.
mean, not necessarily. Again, it depends on who's directing it.
Yeah. Because
Like
I'm.
honestly,
Guillermo del Toro.
again
Yeah.
though, again I would say 50-50.
But that might be like a fun gore, you know?
Yeah, like I say, it really there's a lot to consider in that. I get you, especially with your concerns about Guillermo del Toro. If we're just speaking broad case generalization, I mean, you get a director that's used to handling like spy thrillers of the like or murder mysteries. I think it'd be fine. But I absolutely understand your concerns there.
I mean, I think he's great at emotional, dark themes in
He
general.
is. I
But
just
Yeah.
Oh yes,
I don't want it to detract from the show,
yeah.
which is where one of the ways I think that this show does do well.
Mhm.
But yeah, no androids, no horses, which I'm surprised there. I feel like at some point we could have fit in like, oh, these, doctors like to hang out and place bets at the horse track, and then we could have gotten a horse in here somewhere, but that didn't
I was
happen.
just thinking that.
So that's
And
Dr. Gossip.
and no flying
Mm.
pussyfoot. So really, the only note it's going on is uh the song list. Okay. Okay.
Oh, Joe, what do we got left?
Yeah, and it's time to pick a next show.
So the remaining two shows in the current category of the baggage tier are also shows that I picked. So I am excited to see which one we go with. We have Area Man accepts burden of being only person who understands how the world actually works. It's little ghost bugs. And living well is the best revenge. But what if also revenge in space?
Mm,
A tough choice. Those are good options.
Hmm.
so from the clues, it's in my head either going to be ghosts or space. I'm gonna go with ghost bugs.
Yay!
Nice.
We will be watching Mushishi.
Mushishi?
Bless you.
Mushishi. And that's all I'm telling you.
Is
Okay.
that's like a salmon or tuna on a bed of rice?
No, that is
no.
sashimis.
Great. Well, with that to look forward to, that is a line from a podcast we've been listening to, and that just completely threw me off. That's going to do it for us here this time. We hope you all join us next time. And until then, I don't know.
Be a cinnamon roll.
Be a cinnamon roll.
Be careful who you save.
Punch a Nazi.
Baby Hitler.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. Cotty 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served. Hang on a second.
Shrimp cocktail would be good, yeah. Sorry,
Make it 2.
Make it 3.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, there's a Joe-shaped dust cloud in her chair, and she is gone because there was shrimp to be had.
Yo, mood.